declare the public hearing open at 6:33 p.m. And we'll have Burgess Velasquez lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we're here for a public hearing to discuss the proposed adoption of ordinance number 139, massage therapy establishments, Article 6, massage therapy establishments in general. And this will be in our code of ordinances. A legal notice of this hearing has been published in the Republican American on March 1, 2026. There will be a recording of the public hearing. Everyone will be given an opportunity to speak. I think we should start off with a brief presentation from Attorney Fitzpatrick about the ordinance. Then we'll get comments from the Burgesses, comments from the public, and then we'll reevaluate and see where we are. So, Attorney Fitzpatrick, could you please give us the nuts and bolts version of what we have before us?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Hess. For the record, Ned Fitzpatrick, Borough Council. Good evening, Mayor Hess and Burgesses and members of the public. So we have drafted the massage therapy ordinance, actually massage business and therapy ordinance. And the summary of the ordinance is that, if I can put it in a short version, is that what we're doing is it's the approaches to license these types of massage establishments because they do have public health and public safety implications. So that's our jurisdictional basis. Your jurisdictional basis is that you're addressing some public health and safety concerns. The approach is not to penalize or unduly burden of appropriate massage establishments. The purpose is to prohibit illegal or improperly run, operated establishments. So that's the goal. It certainly is within your authority under the statutes as a municipality to do this. Nautic Valley Health District has been commented and opined on some of the provisions of this ordinance. We've also included the chief of police, who has also been forthcoming with his comments. So briefly, the summary is, given that historical and jurisdictional context, we have a long list of definitions. I know that you have looked at this before. Since we last met, we've made some changes and modifications to it. They're pretty much the definitions have really not changed since doing last there. I would say that if you want to go to section 12.109, I think one of the big questions for the borough is how many do you want? Because you do have the authority to, well, you could prohibit, you could limit. Question is how many? And that's something I think the borough should think about. I know we had discussions with the chief.
Let me stop you for 1 second. We want to adopt it tonight without having it come back. So if you could put this in the context of a recommendation, some alternatives, so we can comment, think about it, and move it forward tonight, unless there's a disagreement that requires further analysis.
Very well. So discussions with the chief is indicated that 2 was the right number. Again, that's a legislative determination, subject to your discretion. There apparently are more establishments out here than that. But he felt that two licensed establishments would be appropriate in that area. Would be appropriate, and of course, there has to be permitted, and unless it's otherwise permitted by the zoning regulations, which right now it's not. So, this process of licensing, there is a licensing procedure. There's a whole outline in the ordinance with regard to the background checks, qualifications for the license. And actually, what's very interesting about this. I like the drafts, and some of the other towns have adopted similar provisions. This is like there's no hide and seek here. This is a hide and seek prevention provisions in here, meaning you can't be a partner, associate, member, or employee. They track all the different types of titles you could have through the ordinance that disqualifies you from being and licensing an operation like this if you have prior criminal convictions, prior histories.
Can I interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
When we say two, does that limit let's say a chiropractor that's in business?
No, chiropractors are specifically one with other medical providers.
No, but I mean, if they use
Absolutely.
massage therapists as part of their practice.
This does not regulate massage therapists who are otherwise properly licensed. No, this is,
This regulates the businesses.
The
this is the
business.
business, that's right.
Okay,
That's
all
right.
right.
It regulates we're licensing, those businesses, and trying to prohibit the functioning and operations of those that are not properly operating, if you understand.
So since you're on that subject, what if I'm a sports medicine place, a cosmetology, a nail salon,
Yeah.
and I've got something going on in my back room? Nobody
Well,
knows,
Wow,
Well,
that depends on what that is.
we can't regulate that?
You sure they can. The police have the police have the option to, they can investigate any claims that there's an improper operation going on in any entity. Just because you are on the face of it, you're licensed, doesn't mean that you have authority to do illegal things in the back room. No. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir. How are you? So, but a good point by Burgess Rosenblatt about that this whole thing. But as I was starting to mention about this is probably the most comprehensive ordinance I've seen where they really track. You know, you really have to be pretty squeaky clean here. You shouldn't be able to get through to a license if you have a prior record, or you have a disciplinary history in any entity, any portion of. Now, again, that requires enforcement, which is why, the onus is really on the PD here. The Valley Health District, of course, has their own health code set of regulations. And in some areas, our ordinance overlaps with theirs. But I think overall, I would say that the difference between this ordinance and any type of licensing and regulatory procedures that we have since been adopted in my history is that this is the hide and seek provisions. I think they're terrific. I hope they work. I hope they're enforced. I hope they can be enforced. The other part about this is that in order to get a license, you have to post a bond. Now, $15,000, it's a surety bond. So that doesn't mean you have to put up $15,000 in the bank, but you can get a surety bond for $1,000, $1,500. But there's also renewal. So you have to not only pay fees, but you also have to pay, there's renewals fees for this license. So that's also required. And in section D, the issuance of a license, it's really a disqualification provision, and that's part of that. The hide and seek elements are located in D. And it talks about your criminal history, your prior backgrounds. I don't want to go through every element of it, but I think it's pretty well set forth there. They have to post a license, which is another, a common element, but it has to be in a conspicuous place. They have to also post the Black Valley Health District license in the place, so there should be two licenses posted. You can't transfer of a property without permission and without a review by the police department. Police department has to review any new transferee coming in. So you can't transfer it, but it's going to be subject to review. And that person is subject again. The hide and seek type part is going to be subject to criminal background checks and all the other standards that we put forth in the ordinance. Okay, so you can just, if you're in trouble, you can't get out of trouble by transferring it to home. It's not getting you out of trouble. You can't, the operation is not going to continue necessarily. That person still has to go through the application process and that person has to meet all the requirements in the ordinance, including, as I mentioned, the background check. And this is, as it was noted before, legitimate businesses, medical doctors, chiropractors, there's even some provision for the, I don't know if it's Reiki is the Reiki masters, and there's another exemption, other exemptions for medical providers. They're not regulated by this ordinance. The sense is that those practices are already heavily regulated by the Department of Health. There's no need to perhaps duplicate that, or maybe maybe since the state really has occupied the ground, whether or not the local government even has that authority, and we probably don't with regard to state licenses. The other part that I thought might need to be salient, I mentioned the bond, is that it's comprehensive in the sense that not just in its detail, in its application, enforcement, denial provisions, but also the zoning office is involved, the building department's involved. So there's a process by which if somebody wants to get approval here, the location has to be approved from a zoning point of view. The building and the facility has to be approved by the building inspector as meeting all the state building codes, which also incorporates by reference the state fire safety code. So you're really protecting, and that's in addition to the health district, in addition to the chief of police. So you're not just protecting the public from, say, inappropriate type businesses in this way. You're also, just in the business itself, you're also making sure that the structure and the public health and safety related to fire and structurally of the building is appropriate. So you're really, I think this is there aren't, if you look around at our ordinance book, there are very few ordinances that are drafted like this. There aren't any, actually. I mean, this is a very comprehensive approach to what is, according to the police department, is become an issue. It's a problem. This isn't a problem in search of a solution. This is it really isn't. This is the solution, hopefully, to that real problem. This isn't something that's not existing. There's a finding throughout the state, throughout the communities, all the communities, that these are real issues facing the public. So that's the approach. We have the document before you is the way it is. We recommend that it be adopted substantively the way it is. We have made some changes with regard to some of the grammar and some of the cross references. The section numbers have been changed in the copy I have that you don't. But other than that, it's the substance of the ordinance is here.
Let's stop for 1 second. On the line from Valley Health, we have Jess Christie, who wants to propose some changes. So, Jim, could you let her in?
Yep. Thank you.
Jess, do you want to jump in and tell us what you want to change?
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Attorney Fitzpatrick. That was a great overview of the hard work that has gone into the creation and revisions to the proposed ordinance. I realize some of the grammatical changes may have been proposed, but there were some additional items from the health department standpoint that we just wanted to present for consideration, knowing that the intention is to pass the ordinance tonight without having to come back for another public hearing. Essentially we're going to be, and we do work together with the police department. This gives the police department more teeth for enforcement activity that is not public health related conduct. So it's concurrent. It's not meant to replace or be in place of the health department code or plan review applications, training requirements, certifications, all of that stuff. So anything that's outlined in this ordinance is in addition to what Naugatuck Valley Health District already requires under our body care code. So some of those things like would be a new establishment or any changes to an existing facility. We do require documentation, review, sign-offs from zoning, fire marshal, etc. Those would all still be there, but re-emphasized with this additional ordinance. The grammatical changes that we identified that we just want to make sure, and I think Nancy, thank you, did address them. We're just making sure that the cover letter date was 2026, not retroactive. That page 19, there's a spelling correction of the word attorney on section number 13. Page 18, paragraph B, the word default just was a minor grammar change. Page 18, paragraph C, the word 30th. Page 19, paragraph B, there is the number 18 at the end of a paragraph that just needs to be removed. In terms of the definitions, we did give careful consideration and thorough review of this. So we worked to make sure that we were inclusive of definitions that align with the language of the Naugatuck Valley Health District Body Care Code so that there is no confusion or different interpretation. However, we'd like to propose 3 minor changes. The first would be on page 5, the definition of Naugatuck Valley Health District. We prefer it to read as Naugatuck Valley Health District means the official local public health entity for the borough as defined by Connecticut General Statutes, Chapter 368F. We think it reads a little confusing with related to the staff being my designee, which is taken care of in the definition of director of health prior to that. The second recommendation is a clarification, and thank you to Chief Hanks, who also reviewed this and provided feedback. On page 6, the definition of massage establishment, we're proposing that it be clarified to read massage establishment means the premise licensed by the Naugatuck Valley Health District that is used and approved to give massage. It just clarifies it that it's not a premise owned by us, it's licensed. And then finally on page 6, the definition of temporary permit, we feel that it would be best to clarify and adjust the language to read temporary permit means a permit issued and approved by Naugatuck Valley Health District and Naugatuck Police Department to conduct a public demonstration, a fundraising event, or a public convention for a period not to exceed 14 days. Other than that, we were satisfied with the changes and revisions to the definitions and also the additional content. The only other concern that we have goes back to the conversation around the limitation of the proposed 2 licensed facilities. Currently, Naugatuck Valley Health District licenses 3 standalone massage parlors and 1 massage therapist that works within a salon for a total of 4 massage licenses. If we were to limit this, we had concerns about how these would be grandfathered in, how the correspondence would look to the establishments. We understand as it reads that this would prohibit any change of ownership, especially if there's a limit of only two. Our concern also is around prohibiting future economic growth for legitimate business owners. And our concerns about discrimination lawsuits being a potential for someone who wants to open a business in good faith. We would also need to create a process for denying all future applications for any massage business, whether it's a standalone establishment, a worker within a salon, or a temporary event where someone may come with a massage chair and want to offer that service as part of that event. Also, logistical considerations. Let's say there's 4, like there are today. If 3 were to close and 1 slot was to be open, we would need a clearly defined process to see how it would be decided if multiple people were to apply and how to give preference and how that would look. So we were concerned with the limitations. I understand the chief's, concern, but for legitimate businesses, we don't want to prohibit, economic growth or legitimate businesses. Other than that, from a health department standpoint, those were kind of the summary of comments that we had on the latest draft.
So thank you, Jess. Now, I think I just changed my mind about voting on this tonight. So what I'd like you to do is send your comments to Attorney Fitzpatrick and to the town, to Nancy and me. And we will continue this public hearing till next month in order that we can address the issues that you raised. And just to be clear, do you have with you the 4 addresses? I know there's one on New Haven Road, one on Cedar Street. There might be a lesser one on Cedar Street as well. And where's the other one?
Church Street?
I don't know. Where do you have the addresses?
I don't have them with me right now, but Mayor Hess, I will provide them to you this evening with the forwarded email of the outline of the revisions.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your comments. We will continue the public hearing. We'll redo the ordinance. We'll bring it back next month and you'll have a chance to review it before we vote on it to make sure we address your comments. And you can stay in touch with Attorney Fitzpatrick or me.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Are there any other comments from the public, anyone in the room or on Zoom that would like to make a public comment?
Make some comment.
All right, second call for public comment. Last call for public comment. Okay, we can save the Burgess questions till next month, or does anyone want to ask?
I'd like to ask some questions,
Okay,
if it's okay, because there might be a change I think should be in there.
okay.
I completely agree there shouldn't be a limit on it for any legitimate business. I mean, heck, we don't do a gas station, certainly. Was this passed by any massage therapists to see, we don't know their business, to see if there's any unintended consequences from this? They would know that we don't.
I defer to Jess on that, who generally goes through with the licensing of already that process in there. But as far as any of the requirements we're asking for, are strictly relating to, criminal violations of law that would allow that. So I couldn't imagine there'd be any impact on, legitimate business dealings, making sure that, we will be enacting a lot of those, the provisions in here for the violation.
Okay, my last comment, 100 years ago, I was on the Board of Ed and I chaired the policy committee. And I went through hundreds of policies because a lot of them said superintendent of schools. And that limited the policy to what could be done and when it could be done in case the superintendent left and wasn't filled for 6 months. And I see in here under a number of section 12, 113, 114, 115, it says the chief of police. I'm wondering if that should be changed to the chief of police or their designee. Because, what if the chief in the future retires is fired, is ill. I know there's a succession, but there's no actual chief of police for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, that would be probably standard language if you're gonna be vetting out here for policies, the chief or designate, so I'm sure we'll take that as.
Yeah, that's something we'd like to, it was very
It's
important to vet policies.
It's on page 5. the
It's
definition.
actually, yeah, it's already included. Any
I wasn't
reference,
gonna say that.
Sorry. That's okay.
any reference to the director of health or the chief of police is defined as either one of us or our designee. So
Good.
any mention moving forward, it would assume a designee in that
Oh,
role.
good, thank you, I didn't see that part. That's it.
All right, any, Jose?
I have one quick one. You mentioned running the transfer of a business through the chief of police. Are there any other industries or business types in the borough currently that have that kind of stipulation in business transfer process?
Yeah, you have to have a license through you have to be approved. You can't transfer, I think it has to still be approved.
Yeah, so I believe the liquor permits would still have the same process you transfer, so the concern would be in this particular business or anyone where there's a chance for any sort of criminal involvement is that you could have like a straw or a front go through legitimately acquire licensing and then transfer it over to a third party that may not meet those requirements that we're wanting here. So, sometimes it's the case with bars or liquor permits that you need to make sure that if it's going to be transferred, they also pass any sort of background check that's required.
Right, that's not a local ordinance, though, to answer your specific question, that's a state law controls that process, so.
And unfortunately, the reason we're bringing forward a local ordinance is due to the lack of action we're getting at the state level for this. I mean, we've involved DCP and Department of Health in these investigations. Unfortunately, they just are not in action. We'll see a little bit of that. Big issues we're going to be talking about tomorrow night through the Board of Ed too. So it's putting it back at the local level for us to take action sooner rather than necessarily wait for the state to pass a state law. So we do have that ability at the local level to take some preemptive action, just the state catches up with us.
And just to clarify too, if there was to be a change of ownership or change of point of contact, the establishment is required to start over their process with the health department. So they would go through a whole plan review and application. They wouldn't just simply be able to change their name on that. So that is something that is already in effect with any of our licensed establishments, food, so on and so forth.
I'm just gonna say, I think go what Rocky has to say. I don't think there should be a limit on how many establishments are open, quite honestly, for the fact that they've got to go through an extensive process to even open. So I would nix the amount that I wouldn't put it at 4, I'd put it whatever. And the process is huge, so.
And for the record, I have no position on that. That was brought forward in the draft and we wanted to get feedback from the board. So I have no.
Okay, so we thought you had a request.
No, apology.
Okay. What makes it much better?
Yes, so.
All right, so we'll continue this public hearing until the first Tuesday of April. We're gonna make it 6:15, Nancy, in case it takes a little extra time with the changes.
Okay.
So, Jim,
And